Hello, so welcome to Forum IAS Prelims 2020 discussion. GS paper we are going to discuss, and this time we planned a different type of discussion because I think the paper also requires such a particular model. So first of all, let us, Ayush sir, so what is your take on this paper?
Sir, first there are two dimensions of this paper. One is that the diversity of the questions that has been there. So very clearly we were seeing one trend that agriculture questions were increasing, but this year if you see, we have to almost create a separate category or a tag for agriculture, because the number of questions that is there.
There should be a separate agriculture focus.
Yes, this has been at least this year. And see, the commission does not do something out of the blue just once. It sends a trend, and that trend keeps on increasing or it keeps on decreasing. So that is one thing with respect to the diversity of the questions.
Can you just give a breakup of the
So if you see this year, about polity we have about 18 questions.
18 questions.
Economy is about 14 questions. Given that we are taking away agriculture and agriculture finance, we can say, and some schemes, for example. So economy we can say broadly we have 10 questions. Agriculture, if you see agriculture and agriculture finance, we can say that it has about 10 questions. Broadly, environment has 14 questions. International relations, now this has been introduced in the past half decade, I will say. Before that, IR was left for the mains examination only. But now they have started asking, and they are asking roughly 4-5 questions every year now.
Yes,
so IR is about 4 questions we have. Geography, we have 6 questions, about one mapping.
Typical geography.
Yes, typical geography questions. Modern history has 9. Art and culture has 3. Science and technology has 15 questions.
So they gave weightage to agriculture and science and technology this year.
Very much, very much.
And polity and economy, like it's kind of a
the weightage is there. I think that a lot of offsetting, because if you see, science and tech questions that have been there, they are a little on the difficult side.
Okay.
Agriculture is difficult because as a part of curriculum, we do not so much focus on agriculture. I mean, agriculture, the focus has largely been from the mains perspective, to be very honest.
Yes.
So that is why it becomes difficult. If if you would study it that well, I think it would be less difficult, at least for agriculture. For science and tech, I would not say the same, because the breadth of the questions that have been asked is a little disadvantageous to humanities students.
Okay.
Because I think that science background students would be able to somehow make out some questions, some logically they would be able to deduce, but for humanities students this may be a little more, a little more challenging.
Okay, so our students, like you are also getting calls, I am also getting some calls, and also our students, I think everybody wants to know what will be the cutoff, because that is something now they will want to know, because they might have checked with the various keys available at present. So what will, according to you, what will be a kind of a possible cutoff?
So one thing is definitely for sure that this year the paper has a little on the tougher side.
Tougher side compared to last year.
Compared to last year. See, there's a difference also. I would say that the tougher side, because of the kind of questions that is, being driven by, for example, science and tech and agriculture. So that makes it tougher. With respect to the ambiguity, I would not say that it is as ambiguous as last year's paper. In fact, the trend, if you see in 16-17 time, there was a trend where at least 3 or 4 questions on the forum for 6 months debate would go on, that what is the correct answer, right?
Yes,
what is a constitutional right or a legal right, those sort of questions, with a lot of ambiguity existed.
And finally, when UPSC releases the key, it will be completely different.
It may be completely different than all the arguments that we have come for. So I would say definitely that the paper has been a little on the tougher side. Having said that, because of increased competition, also there will be some compensation. But I would believe that the fall in cutoff would be in the range of 6 to 8 marks at max.
So like last year's cutoff was something, I think general 98 was the cutoff.
Yes.
So you mean to say that it will be something around 90,
yes, 90, 92. 90,
so can we just say that the students who are like, because students will have various, like it will be difficult time for them also, because how to do, what to do, whether to do. So what will be your opinion or suggestion to them, those who are getting, say for example, 85 to 90, 92, 93?
See, first thing is there that okay, if you're getting above 90, you should prepare because you're definitely writing the mains this year. That is one thing. But more than that, even if you're getting in the range of 5 marks, all right, in the range of 5 marks, the ambiguity and the UPSC key is, as you have seen, a lot of videos are coming these days. So whatever keys that are being, that are coming up by coaching institutes, or otherwise, the key has a lot of difference with respect to the commission. And you'll see that if you delve deeply into the question, I would not say that fairly the commission keys have been, they are the authoritative ones, but
Yes,
I would definitely not say that they would be the most correct ones. I mean, there are some questions which would be honestly debatable, which we can put. So on that basis, people who are getting, even in fact last year also, people who are getting less, 5 marks, 7 marks, 10 marks less than the cutoff, they have been writing the mains. They have come, and usually they have come after the main prelims result. That, sir, I've gotten a mains call, I don't know what to do in the last, now no time is left.
I think like some of our students who got a very good score also, they were not even expecting that they will clear PT.
Yes. Also, there was also a very curious case. Past 2 years, more than 10 candidates, they were not expecting a call. They have gotten a call, but there are also people who are not expecting a call, have not prepared, and on the day of essay, they have been sitting in forum saying that, sir, I have not prepared, I cannot write the mains examination. I've usually told them that you write the mains examination thinking that it's a mock test, at least you will get the experience. There have been a lot of, I think about a dozen people every year who are not prepared, and that happens. But more than that, sir, one more thing I want to point out now is that whether you're getting through or not, there is an exam calendar which has to be followed. Like for example, from June to December, and right now because the paper is delayed, from October to January, I would say, should be focused on the mains preparation. You have to anyway prepare, and the best time to prepare for mains is along with the people who are preparing for mains right now, because you will be pulled along with them. Things move in a wave. I mean, I see so many students who are this year, a lot of people have joined foreign service. Four or five students of foreign joined foreign service. I remember that last year they were writing the mains, but before that year they were in the, there was an answer writing focus group. There was a bunch of whole, because of one student who had secured first rank from revenue service. A lot of IRS people had come that time. So a lot of people, they were not writing the mains that year, but they were studying. And next year they got extremely good ranks, like they got AS properly. So exam calendar has to be followed, because if you're not preparing for mains right now and you miss the bus of mains, you cannot be studying for, main specific things next year after January. Because that is the time for prelims. All right. So exam calendar also, wherever you are on the preparation scale, this is the time for mains. Then there will be a time for prelims. If one mistake that people are likely to make, and I have written umpteen number of times of it, is prelims is something that if you don't score very well, it is very sometimes it leads to a lot of self-esteem. And people think of taking a badla from UPSC, and what they will do is they'll start preparing for prelims. Yes, from right now.
Entirely on prelims.
Entirely in prelims. By December they'll be exhausted, and then they'll start for mains. And then in January, when everybody will switch to prelims, they will be switching to prelims. They will be switching to mains. Then for March, April, they'll be studying for mains. Again next year prelims. The cycle repeats. So which is why, irrespective of what is your score, you should study for mains. And remember that, sir, this is a premier examination of the country. So it cannot be कि जब exam होगा तभी पढ़ेंगे, जब prelims होगा तभी mains के पढ़ेंगे. So that does not really work out. I mean, we don't get top ranks by studying when the exam comes. This is not college. So that is definitely one thing. So I think people should study for the mains. Even people who have gotten 85, it is very likely that if you're getting 85 by various keys, it is very likely that you could be thrown on the positive side of the cutoff, and you may have to write the mains examination this year itself.
So, and sir, another thing is, like, what is your take on, after going through the paper, whether the questions are like, is it against the coaching institutes and their compilations and all?
So one thing definitely is there, that the compilations, which means that the compilations were
magazines, compilations.
Yes, magazines, compilations, all these things. So yes, I would definitely say that commission has been, sir, we have known in the past decade, they have always targeted something that is working. So, and whatever is very out openly, whatever is, so yes, that I would say that against compilations. But against coaching institutes, that could be the effort, but I don't think that the level of depth that this paper requires, for example, agreement between Gandhism and Marxism, I don't think that it is given in the standard books. It is not. Either you know it from political science or you know it from classroom coaching. I mean, it is very difficult for someone, for a first attempt person, to know difference between Gandhi and Marx unless he is a avid reader.
Yes.
You take, there are tons of questions here. True. So I do not see that, while it is maybe an effort, but I think that this would.
So can we say that it should be more of a mains level of preparation
Yes,
which will
yes.
help in prelims.
Definitely. This year itself, we have gotten calls since the evening when the results, when the paper has been done. So this was clearly in favor of a lot of people who have prepared for the mains examination. I'm not going to say that every candidate who's prepared or written the mains examination is going to benefit from it, but definitely it puts them at a easier position because of a difference of clear at least 4-5 questions you definitely know because of your mains preparation, because those parts of the syllabus are there explicitly in the mains examination. And even agriculture, sir, the questions of agriculture, marketing, MSP related concepts, they are not there. They have been asked in the prelims examination, but they are not primary concepts or issues.
Mains
that we
question
deal with.
came
Yes,
also
yes.
last
Mains questions have come, and in mains classes we do them.
Yes,
in
yes.
mains classes,
Very true,
and
very true.
very honestly, the trifecta of the farm bills that have come, which I'm sure that you will be doing very well in your current affair classes. I would say that definitely, I mean, anybody who's following it will be able to understand the whole concept of MSP and all these,
Yes,
and
yes,
it will
yes.
become a lot easier for them to
Yeah,
solve
exactly,
it.
exactly.
So it benefits them. It does benefit people who have been preparing for some time, and it will benefit somebody who has deliberated on those concepts and given it a due number of hours. It cannot be just by reading something superficially. It will be very challenging to answer those questions.
Yes, yes. Okay. So, and overall, according to your analysis, paper, which are the areas in this paper which are considered to be easy?
Sir, one thing that I will definitely say that polity has been on the easier side.
So, sir, so you mean to say that if a student focus on polity, economy, history, those conventional areas, then he will be, can we say that he will be better positioned?
Sir, people who are going to clear this examination will do so. I'm not going to say by solving tough questions, but they will be doing so by avoiding any stupid or silly mistakes in the easier questions, in the questions that are from the common sources. There are a fairly good number of questions from the common sources, or that the ones which can be deduced from reading common
Yes,
sources.
yes, yes.
Apart from that, if somebody is, I don't think that, see, and different people get benefited differently from the paper. For example, some people who may be from medicine background, and it used to happen before also, like way back in 2010-12, a lot of science questions would be there. So people from medicine background, they would be benefited. So a lot of people may benefit, but then it benefits a different kind of professions differently every year. So we cannot bank on that. Primarily, what I think is that if you are not making mistakes in the easier questions, you should be able to clear that.
Okay. So, to conclude, can we say that anybody, whether you are clearing or not clearing, this is the time for you to prepare for mains?
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Because
this year-
otherwise you won't go along with the cycle of the...
Yes, yes, exam calendar. That
Yes.
is very important, sir, because if you don't do it right now, then you get caught in the exam calendar. So that's very important. And the goal should also be, though forum, I would blame forum also, that forum will be the platform for discussing and debating all these questions for a very long time. But I would want that everybody on the forum also should be focusing on the mains examination. What is behind us is behind us. Having so I would say that, yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so let us start with the discussion. So we'll be starting with the polity discussion, and we'll be going through the questions. First we'll complete the polity and then we'll move to, I think, other areas. So
I'll take the question, sir.
Yes,
Can
sir.
we begin?
Okay,
Question
sir.
number 21. A parliamentary system of government is one in which all political parties in the parliament are represented in the government. B, the government is responsible to the parliament and can be removed by it. C, the government is elected by the people and can be removed by them. And D, the government is chosen by the parliament but cannot be removed by it before completion of a fixed term.
Sir, I think this is basically it's an easier question compared to any question. This is one of the easiest question. Anybody who just started the preparation also will answer this thing. But still, I think when you take up options like the correct answer is the government is responsible to the parliament and can be removed by
Let's
it.
say I have not studied anything, sir. Even if I have not studied, if I understand democracy and parliament,
Yes.
you see this question, like for example, the first statement, all political parties in parliament are represented in the government.
Correct.
So we can.
Yes. So you when you say that all political parties, that is not possible in a parliamentary democracy. All political parties won't be part of the government. There will be opposition also. So it is, first of all, you can, with your common
sense. Yes.
common knowledge, you can just eliminate that. Second, sir, one more thing I want to tell you with respect to this question, this parliamentary system, this particular topic was very much in news. So, like we always used to say in class also, some authors and their articles are very relevant. So, we gave an article also, Parliament Missing in Action or something like that by M.R. Madhavan. So, M.R. Madhavan's articles, PRS legislature, M.R. Madhavan's articles are always relevant. So I think this year, let me tell you, there is 2 questions which came from that article. If you read that article properly, you can just solve. This question was also, you can eliminate. This is a general question, but
General
also I'm
question,
saying
yes.
that. So I think that sort of articles, which are relevant articles, I think, what is your take on this thing?
Yes, yes, definitely. So there are a lot of questions by regular reading of some editorial articles, they can be solved. But here, sir, one more thing is there, that question number B, you're saying there is the correct answer.
Yeah.
The government is responsible to the parliament and be removed by it. That happens in parliament.
Yes.
But
So
why not
parliamentary-
option C, sir?
Sir,
The option is
let
elected by-
me
yes.
just give you something here. Sir, in a parliamentary system, the basic idea is the relationship between executive and legislature, and this parliamentary system, the most important aspect of parliamentary system is checks and challenges. Okay, so government that is responsible, that is why parliamentary system is also known as responsible government form, and can be removed by it. So that is logically, this is the correct answer, you won't even go. But as you said, the third option, government is elected by the people and can be removed by them. So this is basically, sometimes I don't know whether students might have made this also as a, maybe like
Yes,
this,
yes,
it's
there
very
will
much
be some
possible.
students, yes.
So it is basically a characteristic of any democratic government.
I mean, this is true for a republican form of government
Yes.
as well.
Yes, so it is not a characteristic or a feature of parliamentary government system. This will be more appropriate. And another thing is, like, when there was a constituent assembly debate also related to whether we should go for parliamentary system or presidential system. So Ambedkar's explanation was that parliamentary system, presidential system is more stable, but parliament system is more accountable. So that again, that is the something which is clearly said in the second option. And
What about D, sir? The government is chosen by the parliament but cannot be removed by it before completion of a fixed
so
term.
that is what, that is the debate also. He said that our focus is not on stability, our focus is more on accountability. So presidential system basically provides more of stability by giving a fixed tenure. So it's an easy question, by
yes,
the way.
yes, yes. In a
But
parliamentary
then also, like, sometimes when you read your option, you will get confused also. That
Yes.
may not happen to most of the students. Very minute section it can happen.
Yes.
Okay. So
that correct
the
answer
answer to 21 is B.
Can we take the next question, sir?
Yes, sir. Which part of the constitution?
Of India declares the ideal of welfare state. A.
Okay.
Directive principles of state policy. B. Fundamental rights. C. Preamble. And D. 7th schedule. Before jumping onto this, sir, so very clearly most people would feel that, okay, people would somehow have an idea that, okay, it's not, fundamental rights, preamble, and maybe DPSP would be the areas where people would have a confusion. How do you dispel this, sir?
Sir, first of all, let me tell you one more thing. This welfare state is something which we are prepared for our current affairs classes also for mains. Because there was a lot of articles which came up, especially during the COVID crisis and pandemic and the migrant crisis and all. So what is the role of state? What we do, being a welfare state, what government is doing? So this is something was very much kind of a possible area, and this time we can also see that in polity there is a lot of questions from DPSP. Normally it should be like fundamental rights focused area will be more, but this year the focus is more on DPSP. So when this question is there, our constitution clearly talks about welfare state in DPSP. So the ideals of welfare state is, there is no confusion here, it is directly
Explicitly given.
explicitly in DPSP.
All right.
So question like 22 will be answer
Whereas
will
in
be-
preamble we can say that welfare state word is also not there, but we can say that the goals are given. But DPSP clearly, I think,
Yes,
explicit
yes.
provisions are there.
Yes, yes.
Can we move to the next question, sir? Question number 23.
Yes.
The Constitution of India defines its basic structure in terms of federalism, secularism, fundamental rights and democracy. And statement 2. The Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberties and to preserve the ideals on which the Constitution is based.
Which of the statements
Are correct.
are correct? Okay. Now, sir, this was also, let me tell you, this is something which again expected because Keshavananda Bharati demised, and I think in our test also it was given, in
Yes,
class
yes,
also it
we
was
asked.
given.
Yes, yes.
So this question, so this was an expected topic, and it is in our main syllabus also, it is directly in the syllabus itself, basic structure is given. Now Constitution of India defines, here ends this particular issue of this particular statement, because there is no definition of basic structure. Basic structure is a judicial innovation. It is India's contribution to international jurisprudence. So this is something of judicial invention. So it is not defined either by the constitution nor by the judiciary. There is not definition. So this is clearly, it is a statement which is wrong. So no need to even if you are not aware which are the, because it is basically derived through various Supreme Court judgments. So you may not be aware of which all are judicial or which all are basic structures. But this itself ends the question here. Now the second statement, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberties and to preserve the ideals on which Constitution is based. So Article 13 talks about, provides for judicial review, explicitly provides for judicial review. And basically what is the idea? Because if any law which is contrary to the Constitution, then it can be declared ultra vires or it will be declared null and void. So judicial review is basically, you can say that it is to protect, safeguard the citizens' liberties, because if any law which goes against citizen liberties or the ideals of the Constitution, then it will be declared, you can say, void.
So even I remember basic structure doctrine, we had set a question I think in the open test. So basic structure doctrine is a limitation set by the judiciary on the legislature. Isn't
Yes,
it? Can
yes.
you say that? It's a limitation set up by the judiciary on the legislature, clearly saying that there are, while you can legislate, there are certain parts of the Constitution you cannot touch. Isn't it?
So yes, say when you say the basic structure, sir, for normal laws, you will check with the Constitution alone. That is enough. But for constitutional amendments, how you will check whether it goes against Constitution, because you cannot rewrite a Constitution, right?
That gives a
A
lot
complete
of
rewriting of Constitution is not allowed. So you will check whether it is leading to changing the character, the soul of the Constitution.
And who will do that check?
Judiciary.
Yes, sir. All right. So the correct answer here is B2 only.
B.
All right.
Okay.
Can we take the next question, sir?
Yes.
One common agreement between Gandhism and Marxism is, all right, two favorite thinkers of all, I think, aspirants. A, the goal of stateless society. B, class struggle. C, abolition of private property. And D, economic determinism.
Sir, this is something like a common agreement between Gandhism and Marxism, because Gandhi was also said that state is a soulless machine, or it was against the concentration of power in states or completely states. So he basically aimed for a he was not completely an anarchist, but he aimed for a stateless society. And Marx was also someone, Marxism is basically provides for a stateless society. So this is something which is
the community would take care of, would replace, the community would work for the welfare of the society.
Yes.
While Gandhi's ideas he would not believe in modern nation states, which he saw them as evil, right?
Very
he believed
true.
in villages as self-contained units capable of
concentric
governing.
circles. Yes.
So the society would be organized on the basis. See, a lot of students have, raised a question with respect to C, that abolition of private property, because they've argued that Marxism clearly talks about abolition of private property.
True.
But Gandhi also talks about trusteeship model, that owners of companies should run the private company as trustees, not take away all the profits, only take away as much as they need and run it like a trust. All right. So because of this, some students have been confused between A and C.
But then also Gandhi was never a supporter of completely against capitalist this thing.
In fact, he has been accused of being a
Yeah,
capitalist.
exactly. So you cannot go with this thing, and economic determinants also same thing.
Economic determinism, Gandhi's literature does not have it, all right. So the correct answer here is A. Can we take the next question, sir?
Yes, sir.
In the context of India, which one of the following is characteristic appropriate for bureaucracy? Interesting question, given that all our students are planning to joining the bureaucracy. We will have some myths busted here, I think, in this question. That what is bureaucracy's role in India? A, the agency for widening the scope of parliamentary democracy. B, an agency for strengthening the structure of federalism. C, an agency for facilitating political stability and economic growth. And D, an agency for the implementation of public policy.
So the answer will be, straight away let us discuss the answer. Answer will be the characteristic appropriate for bureaucracy is it's an agency for implementation of public policy. That is basically the role of bureaucracy. Now there will be some question here, and it's an agency for facilitating political stability and economic growth. Sir, it being a permanent executive, it provides for you can say that it provides for a stability and economic growth, but it is not, its role is not that. It is basically for implementing, it is basically a tool, so it is to implement the public policy, you can say. Do you want to say something?
Yes, sir. In fact, with the respect to the characteristic of bureaucracy, I remember the British, our bureaucratic model is somewhat, or at least the structure is a British legacy. And I think the Home Secretary of British, the head of civil service of Great Britain famously said that bureaucrats who are public servants, they should be political chameleons, which means that they are only implementing the public policy of the government in power.
Correct.
All right, but they should not be political animals, not particularly aligned. One more doubt that students usually have, that why not, sir, is the job of bureaucracy to do economic growth? The thing is, they have to see that the kind of models of economic growth, that is a political question.
Yes.
The model of economic growth
Political economy.
is a political question.
Correct.
Which is not to be settled by a bureaucrat. A bureaucrat is supposed to implement the public
Permanent
policy.
executive's role is implementing the public policy.
Sir, one more very interesting thing is, a student had once asked me that, sir, why should it not be that economic or such agenda should not be a part of a bureaucrat's job? Sir, the very key thing that is there is that a bureaucrat is a permanent executive.
Yes.
So if, let us say, we are not happy with the economic growth model of the bureaucrat,
True.
we can have no recourse
Yes,
compared to a political executive, where if we think that this is, let's say, a very leftist model of economic growth, or let's say very neoliberal model of economic growth, people can vote
Correct.
vote the government out. But what do you do if an economic growth model is brought out by a bureaucrat who's a permanent?
Yes.
Right. So that also brings us to the grand conclusion. I think the D would be the correct answer for this. Can we take the next question? Question number 26, I guess.
Yes, sir.
The preamble to the Constitution of India is A, a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect. B, not a part of the Constitution and has no legal effect either. C, a part of the Constitution and has the same legal effect as any other part. Or D, a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independent of other parts.
Yes, sir. So let us, Supreme Court clearly said that preamble of the Constitution is a part of Constitution in Keshavananda Bharati.
Before that, it had said that it is not a part of the Constitution.
Yes, in Dorubari case and all, it said that it is not a part of the Constitution. But in Keshavananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that it is an integral part of the Constitution. So that means this is gone. Now, it is also very easy. It's not that tough, but still, preamble is a part of the Constitution, but has no legal effect. It is declared as a part of the Constitution in Keshavananda Bharati case, but it does not have any legal effect per se. It does not have any legal effect. Now, it is part of the Constitution, has the same legal effect, that is not there. It is part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independently of other parts. Now, here there is a possibility coming, because Supreme Court itself said that preamble can be used to clear the ambiguity in the Constitution. While interpreting the Constitution, if there is any ambiguity, then you can use the preamble to clear that ambiguity. So then that means it is having some legal effect depending on something else, but independently it does not have a legal effect. It is not having any enforceability aspect and all, but it can be used to clear the ambiguity while interpreting the Constitution. So that means there is a possibility of this thing, but I think it will, I'll go
more
with
than that. If we interpret statement D is a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect independent of other parts, also means is a part of the Constitution but has legal effects when read with other parts. So that brings a lot of
so that gives also possibility of
this being a correct answer.
Correct answer.
But for simplicity's sake,
very directly when you see that
a part of the Constitution but has no legal effect. So we'll go with A. So there are chances that D could be a very
D
close
could be,
option.
yes.
So we'll see that next year when the key comes. What happens? All right. Let's take next question. Question number 28.
Yes.
With reference to the provisions contained in Part 4 of the Constitution of India, which of the following statements are correct? First, they shall be enforceable by the courts. Second statement, they shall be enforceable by any court. And third, the principles laid down in this part are to influence the making of laws by the state. Select the correct answer. So, first statement, can you take it?
So, Part 4 talks about DPSP. Okay. Now, DPSP is not enforceable by any court. Okay. So, first statement is wrong. So, first gone. Now, they shall not be enforceable by court, so that is correct. The principles laid down in this part are to influence the making of laws by the state. So that is also correct, because it should be used for as governing principles while coming with any laws or governments. So this will also be correct. 2 and 3. So the answer will be 2 and 3.
Fairly
only.
straightforward question.
Yes.
Question number 29. Can we take the next question? According to the Constitution of India, a person who is eligible to vote can be made a minister in state for 6 months, even if he is not a member of the legislature of that state. Second statement, according to the RPA Act 1951, a person convicted of a criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified from contesting an election even after his release from prison. Which of the statements are correct? So does this question remind you of any recent linkage to current affairs?
Yes, sir. I think we should have discussed in other questions also that aspect. This is, I think, that Uddhav Thackeray case incident. You can relate that to this thing. So almost all questions you can relate with some developments. You cannot just completely, you cannot say that this is just out of the blue questions. There is always, there is a, like, whether it's DPS preamble, there is a preamble reading happened in the background of anti-CA, demonstrations, protest and all. So lot of preamble
articles have also come, sir. Articles have also come in the Hindu newspaper. Editorials have come for those things.
Lot of things. So preamble was expected. Preamble was expected many times. I think in our own simulator test also preamble. This time was the last simulator also we asked the preamble. So preamble is an expected area. DPSP is an expected area. So like that, it is all having some current linkages. So this can be like
the Maharashtra CM case, right?
incident. Yes,
that he was not, elections were not being held, and
yes,
he could
because
be,
of the COVID. Yes.
Yes, and he could be nominated by the governor.
Yes.
And there was a limitation for 6 months.
Yes,
you
yes,
have to be.
and he has to get nominated. Otherwise, he will lose his
his
CM
chief ministership.
Yes, yes.
Right.
So that can be this thing. But this is also interesting, sir. Here the question is: Constitution of India, person who is eligible to vote can be made a minister. So, sir, in Indian case, if you are above 18 years, universal adult franchise, so if you are above 18 years, then you are eligible to vote. So we provide universal adult franchise. But that doesn't mean that you can become minister if you are eligible to vote. The voting eligibility and eligibility for ministership, there is a difference. So that makes this statement wrong, because in order to become minister, there are some criterias. Age is 25 years, you need to be a citizen of India, 25 years of age, and you should not hold any office of office, things like that. Okay, so this,
to be a minister, he has to be qualified to be elected to elected or nominated to the legislative.
But that he can become minister, but he can become minister, but he need to be member within a span of 6 months.
Yes. But his age criteria is not 18 years.
Yes, so that eligible to vote, that universal adult franchise, that aspect and that
membership aspect,
yes,
which I think is 25 years.
Yes, yes.
All right. So first statement is incorrect. The second statement, a person convicted of criminal offence and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years is permanently disqualified.
Yes. So this is again, this is the issue here. There is no permanent disqualification. So RPA section 8 clause 3 also talks about disqualification for conviction of offences, but it is, there is a 6-year period. After that again, if you,
they can become.
yes.
All right, all right.
So the answer will be
Neither one.
neither. Yes, D.
All right. The other question we can take.
Yes, sir.
Consider the statements. First statement: the President of India can summon a session of the Parliament at such a place as he thinks fit. Sir, can the President do so?
Yes, sir. Article 85(1) basically empowers President to do that. And that is the same, like M.R. Madhavan's article says that. Why can't, when the Constitution provides for it, why can't President do that? And he argues that in many states, many countries, democratic countries, they are going for some kind of hybrid model where you can either attend
the Parliament by coming.
Yes, or you can just attend through video conferencing.
You mean
model.
the entire session of the Parliament in a pandemic could have been called in the online mode?
Because Parliament's role is to ensure that government is accountable, government is doing its responsibilities, cross-checking what is happening, checks and challenges, and also that was missing. So this was also a question you can relate with that article. That is what one thing. So that is also the reason why it is in news.
Long back, sir, you know, when the Anna Hazare movement was happening way back in 2010, so that there was a debate. Sri Lalu Prasad Yadav, I think he was the railway minister back then. So he talked about that Parliament is sovereign. To which the reply was, of constitutional experts' reply was that it's not the Parliament that is supreme, but it is the people who are supreme. And there was also a very good debate saying that if the people outside if the parliamentarians are debating debating in within the parliament and the people are outside in Ramlila Maidan, it is not necessary that the representation of people is not exclusively in the parliament itself. So there was an argument, not necessarily a very strong one. If the people are protesting outside, the parliament could very well be outside of this, the people's representation could be very well outside the parliament.
Yes, the real demand or the real aspirations, yes.
So, all right. And the second statement is the Constitution of India provides for 3 sessions of the parliament in a year, but it is not mandatory to conduct all 3 sessions.
No, sir, it is more of a convention. 3 sessions, like 3 like budget session, monsoon and winter sessions, more of a convention.
All right. And there is no minimum number of days that the parliament is required to meet in a year.
There is no minimum number of days, but there should not be a gap of 6 months.
6 months. So correct answer in this case would be?
So this is correct and this is correct. It should be 1 and 3 now.
Can we take the next question?
Yes.
Consider the following statements. First statement, Aadhaar metadata cannot be stored for more than 3 months.
So this was, okay, let us.
Yes. Second statement, state cannot enter into any contract with private corporation for sharing of Aadhaar data. And third statement, Aadhaar is mandatory for obtaining insurance products. Fourth is Aadhaar is mandatory for getting benefits funded out of the Consolidated Fund of India. Can we take the statements one by one, sir?
Yes, sir. First of all, this was based on the Aadhaar case 2018 Aadhaar case. 18 last, I think. Okay. So, through that Supreme Court Aadhaar verdict, it said that, and it struck down some provisions which basically allowed even private corporates to use Aadhaar data and all. So
yes, we remember, because earlier the Aadhaar data was being shared with Airtel and all the mobile phone companies, and after that
they made it mandatory that to get a SIM you need to
have an Aadhaar. And then the Supreme Court gave the judgment, and after that they said that okay, now Aadhaar is not mandatory.
It became more voluntary.
Voluntary.
So, yes. Okay, so but here the thing is that I don't know why UPS is going for this thing. It was basically 6 months, but they went for 3 months. These things is not a kind of a UPSC thing. They won't change 6 to 3 and all. Anyway,
they've done it.
Yes.
And the second statement, it cannot enter into a contract with private corporations.
So here there is some issue. It does not say that state cannot enter. It says that private corporation should not use Aadhaar data, but this is having this statement, is, you can say it is correct also, but when you go deeper into that, it does not mean that tomorrow state cannot enter. State is having that power to come up with something which can be challenged. That is a different thing. But cannot enter into any contract with the private corporation sharing Aadhaar data. That is
prima facie, it cannot share data
with
private players.
That is part of the judgment.
Right,
also.
so we'll keep it as a debatable one. Aadhaar is mandatory for obtaining insurance.
Sir, I think the question is more from this part it came, because it happened September 1. IRDA made that Aadhaar is mandatory for getting insurance.
All right, 1st September.
So this is the thing. IRDA said that Aadhaar is mandatory for insurance.
But remember, the commission has been known to ask questions where something has happened later. After the question has been asked, it has happened, isn't it? For example, in the mains examination earlier, you see that when the mains examination would happen in October, November, a question would be asked. Now that question's actual relevance would come out in December.
Sir, they'll take up seats. It will germinate later. So that is very much possible in UPSC mains. But here this is a statement. Now, if it is a wrong statement and if it happened just after framing the question, then it will be a problem, because that option itself is a problem.
So do you think that they would have revised the key?
I think, see, always, sir, last year also that Dinovian question or something which happened just before, just the same month of May, last year, May 31st was the exam, right? It came in Hindu, I think May only. So September it happened, question came. Possible, you cannot deny that they are not aware of this thing. So this is something possible.
So you will go with which of these? And Aadhaar is mandatory for getting benefits?
No, sir. Aadhaar is not mandatory to getting benefits. Aadhaar is voluntary. Now, if you want to make it compulsory to get some service as part of that particular service or that particular act, that is possible. Rules. NREGA, you are saying that in order to get NREGA benefit, Manrega benefits, you need Aadhaar card.
So you mean to say basically the statement Aadhaar is mandatory for getting any benefits funded out of the Consolidated Fund of India. Now the Consolidated Fund of India is the primary purse of the government from which
Yes.
it makes the spending.
Correct.
Which this means that Aadhaar is mandatory for getting any government benefit, any scheme benefit from any scheme, right? Now such a limitation that you have to have an Aadhaar card for getting a benefit of a scheme.
Any benefit of see, yes,
either-
exactly. As you said, it is CFI means anything
equal to government
anything,
scheme.
anything. So automatically, when I am saying that to get anything from government, this is mandatory, then it also goes against even Supreme Court verdict, previous Supreme Court directions, and also the idea of Aadhaar itself, because Aadhaar is basically utilitarian concept was basically the debate happened in court also, where court said that okay, in order to provide something for a larger section of the people, because there should be compelling state interest. In order to breach the right to privacy, there should be a compelling state interest.
State reason for it,
There,
yes.
there is a proportionality test, which basically gives three things. One is there should be an act. Second one, there should be a compelling state interest. Then third one is there should not be a breach which is required more than what is to be.
The benefit has to be more than the cost.
Yeah, exactly. So that is why it says that okay, this is something which is benefiting the poor. Now, when you say that for poor, if he is not having Aadhaar, I want to give PDS, and people are dying, then that will be bit.
And this, you cannot have a blanket statement like this.
Yes,
because
yes.
Either this would happen either when it is mentioned either in the Aadhaar Act,
True.
or it will be in every single scheme that the
Yes.
government is passing.
Yes.
In every single scheme, you have to mention this.
Yes.
That you Aadhaar card is mandatory for it.
No,
Otherwise,
if this is required, then you should mention this in Aadhaar Act.
yes, either in the Aadhaar Act, yes, primarily in the Aadhaar Act.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Otherwise,
every
in
act you have to
NREGA
have.
saying that in order to get the NREGA cash transfer or something, you need an Aadhaar Act. That is a different thing. Aadhaar, that's a blanket.
Blanket that
Aspect.
Yes.
So that may not be correct. So that means this so gone. Then this is not correct. This is gone. So 3 only can be an answer.
Okay, all right. So you're saying that
I am going with that because
going with
this
3.
that is why I am having some apprehension with the statement 2. Because in the
This
options
is
that is
September
not there.
1 update according to you, right? So you think that the commission may have revised one question particularly to
It is
show that
possible.
they have
It is
updated the
possible.
question. All right. All right, so you're going with 3. But if we were not to go with 3, let us say that
Otherwise-
if we do not go with 3, if the commission
Then
will not,
it will be B.
then it will land up with 2 and 4. But 4 is again tricky. I mean,
4, yeah. So that is the thing now. 4 will be eliminated automatically.
yes.
So it will be
we have to come up with 3. All
3,
right.
3 only.
Can we take the next question? Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha in A. The matter of creating a new All India service. B. Amending the constitution. C. Removal of the governor. Is it the removal of the government or removal of the government? Okay. And D. Making cut motions.
So this is also again an easy question. And this time also the Rajya Sabha was also very much in news. Role of Rajya Sabha, relevance of Rajya Sabha, then elections to Rajya Sabha. How does Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha were different?
And getting bills passed by the Rajya
Rajya
Sabha.
Sabha. So
And we know that because the government had a tough time, it knew that in Lok Sabha we can pass the bills.
no, but this time to they're eyeing, yeah, that issue is sorted out for in the present
Present session.
present parliament. Yes.
But
So
last
time it was
last Lok Sabha there was a problem.
Yes,
because they
yes.
did not
Now-
enjoy state majority.
yes, now it is not.
All right. So in matters of creating All India services, Rajya Sabha
Rajya
has
Sabha is having an upper hand.
upper hand.
Okay, so
Amending
that
the constitution,
is equal.
equal of them. Right. Removal of the government,
That is Lok Sabha.
Lok
having.
Sabha is it
again
and making
same.
cut motions. Rajya Sabha has no role, right?
Yes,
It cannot. All right. Question number 33. Next question. Can we take the next question? With reference to the funds under MP LAD, which of the following statements are correct? So we had been discussing MP LADs had been during the pandemic. There were some changes to the MP LADs.
Yes, sir. They are because MP LADs is cancelled for 2 years. Temporarily it is cancelled.
Temporarily suspended.
So there was some kind of hue and cry against that also. Why you are doing this thing? Because it is something which now you can be used. This money can be used for addressing some of the COVID issues. So why you are doing it when I am getting some 5 crore rupees and I can do something for the COVID-ridden society or my people? Why you are taking it?
Yes.
So that is why it was there, because it was cancelled, and the money will go to CFI. Okay.
So the first statement, MPLAD's fund must be used to create durable assets like physical
Yes,
infrastructure
yes.
for health.
So that is one of the objectives.
Primary
Yes,
mandate.
yes.
Second statement, a specified portion of each MP's fund must benefit SC
Yes, yes.
population.
That is also there.
That is there in the guidelines.
Yes, guidelines.
MPLAD funds are sanctioned on yearly basis and the unused funds cannot be carried forward to the next year.
No, it can be carried forward. And there is something happened also. There is something 5,000 crore rupees unspent money is there on this thing.
Plus every year, sir, if you remember, we have that. We have a listing by either, the Association for Democratic Reforms, ADR, or somebody comes up that this is the amount of funds that is pending in MPLAD which has not been used.
Yes, not being
And it is
used.
not lapsing.
It is
not
not
lapsing.
lapsing. It's not
It is
lapsing.
accumulating all the time,
Correct.
isn't it?
So it is, that is what it is. Recently also there was a news that some 5,000 or something was, got accumulated. So that means it is allowed to carry forward.
This is wrong.
This is wrong. Okay.
All right. The district authority must inspect at least 10% of all works under implementation every year.
Yes. This is given in the guidelines. So that is also one thing. But this is basically what students may miss.
Yes.
So
Because this is because students will miss both the role of the district authority as well as that 10% number.
yes, yes, yes.
Isn't it? So
the
this is-
role of district authority there
be
is,
there.
yes, there can be. But this
But a student is likely to think that
Miss.
maybe CAG may audit.
or
They are
something like so here there is a chance that students
They miss
will
this
get confusion.
I would consider this as a very difficult question. sir.
Because sir, MP loads was expected because of this COVID and cancellation and all. But when sir, now two things will happen. Everybody will read this thing as part of their preparation. Now they'll think that, "Oh, this I need to do it," and then they are not aware of this thing, and then they will make some mistake. So that
yes.
possibility is
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So what is the final answer to this question, sir?
Answer will be D, sir. 1, 2, and 4.
All right. Let's take the next question. Question number 34. Which of the following categories of fundamental rights incorporate protection against untouchability as a form of discrimination? A. Right against exploitation. B. Right to freedom. C. Right to constitutional remedies. D. Right to equality.
So our fundamental rights are having different categories. First one is right to equality, then right against exploitation, then right against right to religion, then right to
Yes.
freedom, right to freedom,
Right
so
to
like
freedom,
that.
different
Okay.
freedoms. Sir.
So right to equality includes Article 14 to 18.
And-
Untouchability is in Article
17.
17.
So this is straightforward.
This people will go wrong here. Out of A and E now directly they'll okay, it's against exploitation. It is
Yes,
right
yes,
against.
yes. If you're very hurried,
It
very
is
fast.
basically about child labor,
Child
beggar and
labor.
all.
Yes. Can we take the next question? In India, separation of judiciary from the executive is enjoined by A. The preamble of the constitution, B. Directive principle of state policy, C. The 7th schedule, and D. The conventional practice.
Yes, sir. B. It is very straight. Article 50 of the
Yes, sir.
Constitution.
So one way I'll tell you how to remember this.
Ah.
Article 50 means 50-50.
Yes, yes.
So this separation of judiciary from executive. So 50 you
This
divide it into
advantage
equal
of
halves.
studying things like that. So even if you studied 10 years back or 20 years back, still
You remember
it's
50-50. Yes.
50-50. Yeah.
All right, next question. I can also tell you, I come from a bureaucratic background, so I can tell you that when this had happened, it was a very sad day for bureaucracy because bureaucrats earlier used to have judicial powers.
Yes.
So when this separation was happening, it was as if everything is lost. So two instances I'll tell you in the life of bureaucracy is that one was the separation of judicial powers from executive, and the second was the bringing up of the Panchayati Raj, where at least a lot of a large part of the bureaucracy felt that now they would have to work under extremely less educated and more representative, but extremely because the bureaucracy is based on a merit principle, isn't it? So merit principle, there is always a feeling that merit should dominate representative principle because the Panchayati Raj. So these two events were very, what you call not so happy days for the bureaucracy. Anyway, let's take the next question, sir. Question number 36. Along with the budget, the finance minister also places other documents before the parliament which include the macroeconomic framework statement. The aforesaid document is presented because this is mandated by A. Long-standing parliamentary convention, B. Article 112 and 110A of the Constitution, C. Article 113 of the Constitution, and D. Provision of the FRBM Act 2003.
Sir, it is again, this also news because of FRBM targets.
Why was it new, sir?
So two things are there. One is during budget, we used escape clause.
What is escape clause, sir?
So whenever there is an extraordinary circumstances, then it allows or it basically gives some permits the state to breach that particular target set. If I think 3.2 or something is the target set under our FRBM Act. So you can breach 0.5%. So we were in a situation before the COVID itself. Our situation was not good. Economic slowdown was there. We used to talk about stagflation, all those things. Whether we are facing a stagflation, or what like overall economic slowdown was happening, five-year low and all. So that time we used escape clause. I think section 4 of the FRBM Act talks about escape clause, and we used escape clause. After that COVID happened, all revenue over, automatically you will have to like breach fiscal deficit targets. So this is something which was again expected area. So this is something as part of the Fiscal Responsible Budget Management Act, there is a mandate for the finance minister to provide this, which is basically gives an overview of macroeconomic indicators, GDP or like overall indicators will be provided.
All right, so basically a lot of students may have thought of Article 112 given the annual financial statement or the budget, right? Some people may have thought that the macroeconomic framework statement is given along with it's a requirement of, because it comes with the budget, so that would have been one mistake, but it's a part of FRBM Act.
FRBM.
All right. Can we take the next question?
Yes, sir.
A constitutional government by definition is a government by legislature, B, popular government, C, multi-party government, D, limited government.
Again, sir, a straight question.
Very straightforward question, yes.
Even when you started preparation, I think polity, at least if you started preparation and you are aware, sir, we are like our CGP students, they will answer this.
The foundation students should be able
They will be able to answer this. If you give this question paper of them, other than this FRBM or these kind of things, they will answer all the questions. They will clearly mark it correct.
Unless, you know, they are reading too many questions before this and they're getting confused, and in that confused state you may end up overthinking, then you may probably, you know, come up with
that
some
will happen to many students. They'll always, it's the problem with the PT, like especially this silly mistake they're making is because they'll overthink. They'll use logic and they'll think
or the previous questions logic is passed on to the next question logic, yes.
That is
or because, and then what happens is even a simple question you can get it wrong. Plus this is a very favorite area of, this is, I think last year or last to last year also we had questions from this limited government.
No, constitutionalism, limited government, rule of law. There was a question on rule of law also, something like that. That was always.
Right.
Next
basically, yes, next question.
Yes, sir, tell.
So basically a constitutional government is the one where it is limited by a written or
constitution.
Written constitution.
Yes, constitutionalism, limited government, written constitution.
Question 38, other than the fundamental rights, which of the following parts of the Constitution of India reflects the principles and provisions of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? First, preamble. Second, DPSP. Third, fundamental duties.
Yes, again, this is something like when you read 2 3 times, you will make a mistake. There is a possibility. Because, say, something our constitution talks about, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, straightly, directly, explicitly in fundamental rights and DPSP. Where is DPSP? Okay. Now, but UDHR also talks about fraternity, common brotherhood and all. So you can say that it is there in our preamble as well as fundamental duties.
Sir, while you know, while you may argue that in DPSP it is directly there, we also have seen that Commission has taken generally, if it is broadly true for all the cases, no? For example, all of these, it has generally gone for that option also. What we have seen over the years.
Yes.
Isn't it? If you can broadly say that the preamble, you know, reflects the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we can broadly say. So we'll go with 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, there is also a fairly chance that the Commission may choose option B, isn't it?
Yes, that is also possible. But as you said, like the preamble directly talks about liberty, justice, everything.
And fundamental democracy, promotion of brotherhood, right?
Yes.
Words are there.
Yes.
Yes.
So that will be, yes.
All right, next question, can we take it? In India, the legal service authorities provide legal free services to which of the following types of citizens? 1 person with an annual income of less than 1 lakh. 2 transgenders with an annual income of less than 2 lakh. C, members of other backward classes with an annual income of less than 3 lakh. 4, all senior citizens. So before we proceed with solving this question, there are so many facts here.
Yes.
Do you think, does this not make this a question that one should miss, unless there is a way to eliminate? For example, maybe from the knowledge of senior citizens or something, or transgenders, we can make out, but otherwise it will be extremely difficult. The only saving grace is...
Sir, I don't think anybody will have a clear idea of these figures and all. But as you said, if you can think that OBC ko name mila hoga, like that logic if you are applying, and it will be more of
Guesswork.
guesswork. So I will go with you. Like you may skip this question. That will be more safe than attempting and making it wrong.
Making it wrong. The
Because
good saving grace is, or for example, to increase the chances of getting it wrong, UPSC has only given only 2 choices.
Yes, yes,
Four
yes.
statement, 2 choices. They have not come up with 1, 2, and 3. That would make it a little more complicated. So
now see the logic will be because legal services, according to the Legal Services Authority Act also 1987, it basically for inclusive legal provision of inclusive legal free legal aid. So 39A of our constitution basically talks about free legal aid. Now you will apply your logic. Free legal aid, 39A, everything will come and you will say, okay, these are all vulnerable group. So then you will think that transgender abhi aaya hai.
Abhi aaya hai. Yes. So what is yes, definitely will think that transgender would have come right now, so it may not be there.
So that is what actually this is not there. All senior
Okay.
citizens are not covered, or OBCs are not covered.
Okay.
So this 3 and 4 will go.
The correct answer will be 1. All right. So this is with respect to, I think, all the polity questions that we have.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So we'll take up other sections with different faculty, different subject experts,
Yes,
if
sir.
possible, or if you are available for other subjects, we can do that.
We are available.
All right. Well, let's try to do the other sessions.
Let's see, sir. Time is also a factor.
Yes. Definitely. So thank you, everyone. We'll proceed with other parts of other questions with different subjects with after this video. All right. Thank you, everyone.